Immersing yourself in all things soccer ahead of this summer's World Cup, I'm Alex Abnos, Senior Sports Editor from The Guardian. And whether you're a soccer beginner or you know the game inside and out, we've got you covered. Read, watch, and listen as our journalists connect the dots between the games, the cultures, and this political moment. We'll have daily newsletters throughout the tournament, reporters on the ground with all the big teams, and the legendary Football Weekly podcast. The Guardian, bringing you the whole picture on soccer. Search Guardian Soccer for more.
If your eyes are the windows to your soul and your glasses are the windows to your eyes, then it's pretty important to find your perfect frames. That's why at Warby Parker, we've made shopping for eyewear as easy and fun as can be. Peruse endless styles in our stores or use our app to virtually try on frames and get personalized recommendations. To find your next favorite pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to locate your nearest Warby Parker store, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is only $2.50. So you can get your gym gains on or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast.
To me, being perfect is not about that scoreboard out there.
This is a chance of a lifetime.
When you can understand the person, you can then work towards a common goal.
We are all on the same team.
Know your role and do it to the best of your ability.
Focus on the fundamentals. We've gone over time and time again.
Your defense has got to be better.
Leave no doubt tonight.
Great moments are born from great opportunity.
Hello and welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast. My name is Paul Barnett, and here on the podcast, we believe that there is no algorithm for leadership, and so we interview great sports coaches from around the world to try and find one or two ideas to help all of us be better leaders. Our great coach on this episode is Tara VanDerveer. Tara is a retired American basketball coach who led the Stanford women's basketball team for 38 years. In that time, she led the Cardinals to NCAA championships in 1990, 1992 and 2021, as well as 13 Final Fours along the way. In 1996, she also led the US national team to the gold medal at the Atlanta Olympics. In January 2024, she surpassed both Pat Summitt and Mike Krzyzewski as the winningest coach in college basketball history, eventually retiring with a record of 1,218 wins at a ratio of 81.8%. Tara was voted the Naismith National Coach of the Year on 3 occasions and the Pac-12 Coach of the Year on 18 occasions. She was inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in 2002. And just before we go to the interview, today's podcast is brought to you by the Macquarie University Business School's MBA program. Designed to empower, challenge and transform, the Macquarie MBA gives you the business skills and knowledge you need to succeed in an evolving global economy. To find out more, search for Macquarie University Business School's MBA. And now, please enjoy our interview with Tara VanDerveer.
You're listening to the Great Coaches Podcast.
Tara VanDerveer, well, it's good morning in Australia. It's good afternoon to you. And welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast.
Thank you.
Tara, something simple to get us going. Could you tell us where you are in the world, what you've been up to today, and perhaps even what you're drinking just there?
Well, I am in Menlo Park, California, which is about 30 miles south of San Francisco. I work at Stanford University. I retired as the head basketball coach last April. And since then, I've worked as a coach's coach with the 36 varsity sports at Stanford. And I also work in development, which is helping raise funds for the athletic department. And in the meantime, I'm involved in a lot of interviews, speeches, working on a book. And then I had hip surgery, so I'm recovering from that and getting healthy, going swimming, biking, walking my dog. But today is a very rainy day here, so I'm inside and it's cold, so I had a hot chocolate.
Well, Tara, it sounds like we've got a lot to cover. Particularly, I want to talk to you later on in the interview about coaching coaches and the fact that you got yourself an executive coach as well. So I want to drill into that. But I'd like to start by just sort of following the journey, if we can. And I want to actually start with the great coaches that you've worked with or seen up close. So in researching and reading about you, I know that you talk a lot about Bobby Knight, B. Gorton, and Steve Kerr. Well, actually, Steve Kerr talks a little bit about you. And I'm sure there's many other examples. In fact, it was the great coach Jeremy Gunn that introduced us. But
right.
Tara, what is it you think the great coaches do differently that sets them apart?
Well, I think they have a real clear vision of what they want to see on the court or, on the field. And they're able to communicate that vision in a very positive way so that their team plays the way they want them to play. And that players grow and develop and feel valued by their coaches and their teammates. And they're able to, stay with things when things aren't going well, encourage players to play better, and always improving.
Tara, 38 years coaching Stanford. 38 years is a long time in any profession, but your love of coaching started before that. Where did the passion for leading a group of people first come from? When did you discover it?
Well, I think the passion first came with, as a young girl playing basketball. I loved the game of basketball, and I was, just out there playing with the boys or, get a chance to play in like gym class. And I just had fun. I loved the game of basketball. And then both my parents are teachers, and I just see coaching as teaching with, 40 public exams. You're out there and but you're teaching a sport that you love. So I never felt like it was a job job. I always felt like it was fun. And so I had, I just, had the passion for the game, and then enjoyed the teaching part and enjoyed the players I worked with. So, I was at Stanford for 38 years, but I also had the Olympic team for a year, and I was at Ohio State for 7 years, and I was at Idaho for 2 years. So I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time. I've heard you talk about coaching is teaching, and I wanted to ask you, when does it, or does it ever evolve into leading?
Well, I think teachers are leaders. They're people that are leading students kind of down the path of being lifetime learners, being excited about learning. So I guess I see them both as, I see a coach as a teacher and a leader, and I see a teacher as a coach and a leader. So they're almost kind of the same thing for me. It is different, though, when you do have the pressure on you to win as a coach, which maybe a teacher might not feel that exact pressure of, you're going to be reading about your failure or success in the newspaper the next day, or watching it on television that night. So there obviously are differences, but, the idea that, like, when you think of, you had a great teacher, they were probably a great leader too.
I want to talk about the start of your playing career, if we can. You started out at the University of Albany, but the environment there was, in your words, just not challenging enough. So you took yourself off to the championship, which I think was the precursor to the NCAA, and you were looking for a new team. You were up there in the stands looking for a new team, and I wondered, this desire to be elevating your environment was with you at such a young age, and I wondered how it stayed with you and evolved as your career progressed.
Well, I did experience that. I played at Albany, and this was just, women's basketball was really at an infancy at the time. And they had the AIW, which was the Association for Intercollegiate Women's Athletics. They staged a tournament where 16 teams went. And so I did convince a friend who had a very big car to drive with me and a couple other friends, and we had a cooler of sandwiches and drinks to go to. I was in Illinois, so it was like a 15-hour drive, and I was taking notes on all the different teams. And so I knew I was looking for a team and a university that fit kind of what I was looking for. I wanted a great education, and I wanted to play on a fun basketball team that would challenge me. And so I found that and went transferred to Indiana. But I think I always had like 5-year plan or 10-year plan, like always looking ahead to, thinking I'm going to start here and then I'm going to move up, kind of move up the ladder. And so even, as a JV coach, I knew I wanted a head job, and at a head job at a small school, I knew I wanted a head job at a big school. And then I refined it even more to a big school, an academic opportunity that was really unique at Stanford. Just the opportunity to offer a young person an education at a world a world famous university, and also that then we could have a world famous basketball team.
It's interesting, I imagine, at Stanford, because your athletes are also very intellectually bright.
They are.
And I imagine you're in an environment where debating with them could sometimes become quite consuming. I'm wondering how you had to change to deal with that.
They do, there are different athletes that, just because someone is really academic does not mean that they have good basketball sense. I've coached some very intelligent academic students who on the basketball court are a box of rocks. I mean, they really take a long time explaining things. And I do notice that some of the Stanford, some of the Stanford players that we've had do ask a lot of questions, but I'm okay with that. I like the questions. And I don't mind explaining why we're doing things, or kind of the whole, they want to know why we're doing it, not just go out and do it. So, and I'm okay with that. But it has been really, I think, really fun working with people that are very driven, and the students at Stanford are very driven.
Yeah, you drive and energy is something that flows through your story. But there's also a great quote around oatmeal that I've seen you deliver a couple of times in interviews, actually. I'd like to read the quote to you, and then I'd like to ask you a question about it. You say, basketball is like steel cut oatmeal. You've got to cook it. It's not instant oatmeal. Now, I can think of many other professions that you could use a similar analogy for, but could you share with us, Tara, a story that really illustrates this idea to you?
Well, I think that there are a lot of times in the world that our young people live in now, everything is instantaneous. So you've got in the United States, you've got Amazon that delivers, the next day. You've got Google that you can look up and have the answer right away. And I think that that's the kind of world that a lot of our young people live in and expect. But that does not fit with basketball or probably any really, really high performance endeavor. I mean, you can't be a great pianist in 15 minutes, or you can't be, a great artist. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And that's what I call the slow cooking. And so I think some of the young people that want instantaneous satisfaction are disappointed with basketball because they can't get it right away. It takes a long time. But the people that really enjoy the journey, the process of improving, are happy to play basketball or to do some other sport like that, or like a musician, or but they have to really enjoy the process, not just the destination.
Well, that's been a hallmark of your career as well, a long journey with some ups and some downs along the way.
That's true. But, if I think any coach would be, challenged that way. if you're any sport that you coach, it's never going to be smooth sailing.
Tara, I've got another great quote from you. This one really resonated with me as a CEO, actually. You say, I asked them to go up on the high wire and I'm their net. And as coaches, that's what I try to do, is to be there for them, no matter what happens. This high wire and net analogy was quite a powerful one for me. And it made me reflect on the times in my career where I've probably tried to help people balance rather than be their net. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what advice you might have for other people on distinguishing between those two roles that you can play as a leader.
Well, I think I thought about this in a way, like when I started taking piano lessons. I had a really great teacher that I thought, like I would be preparing for a recital as an example, and, you'd get nervous, and I always felt like, she was right there to encourage me and to, keep me on the music. And she was someone that I think that through coaching and, kind of my piano journey a little bit, I thought I could teach myself piano, and I realized that was stupid. That wasn't going to happen that way. But I realized, having a teacher and being a coach that would help players get to a place they couldn't get by themselves. And that part of being up on the net was that you're going up there and you can do this, and the confidence and the encouragement that as a coach, you want to give someone. And I felt that as a piano student.
So if someone was perhaps helping people balance too much, or they're perhaps being too much of a net, you talk about these 30 plus people that you're coaching at the minute. Is this a topic you bring up with them, learning to sort of calibrate where they need to be in that moment?
With the students, you mean?
Yeah, with the other coaches you're working with.
Yeah. Well, I think that the other thing too is just like if you think of, as an example, have you ever been to SeaWorld, where the whale jumps that high, comes way out of the water and jumps that rope, and if you think of, well, they didn't start there. They started with the rope on the bottom of the pool and put a fish on the other side, and fish up and goes, and then up and up and up and up. And so, like, and any time you're teaching anything, any skill, you don't start at the very top. You start with the easy and ladder the skill up, so that you have a chance to get the people to where they can be, but you don't have them experience a negative experience or failure, and then they don't want to do it. So kind of nothing succeeds like success. Start out easy and get it and add it up.
Tara, in your final season at Stanford, you engaged a coach for yourself, Kirsten Moss.
I did.
Tell us about that experience and how it shaped you.
So my last year at Stanford, my second to last year, was very disappointing, and I just felt like I didn't want to go through another year feeling the way I did my second to last year, and I wanted to continue on, and I ended up retiring, but I wanted to move in a different direction, and I thought that it would be great to have someone help our team with leadership. And I felt that the team that had been very disappointing had lacked leadership, and the person that I worked with was a leadership expert, and she'd be someone really great for you to interview, I think, but not a coach, but she is a coach, actually. She coaches CEOs and young people to up their game. And working with her and talking to her, meeting with her, she did a customized leadership program for our team, and then she worked with me individually. And it was something that I really valued and learned from. And she would start with maybe a simple question of, why would people want to follow you? And so, that's when you try it, in some ways, it's kind of a hard question to answer, but there would be questions like that. And more than anything, I think she really emphasized the connectivity between you and the the young people that you're coaching, and that a lot of young people, I think, they struggle with the relationships because they are so busy on their phone all the time. You know, they have like what I'll call artificial relationships. You know, like a lot of people that like them on their phone, but that doesn't mean they like them in person. You know, so I think that she was really helpful with that, to connect with the players, to have me really think through how I could maximize my communication with players and staff. And I think it was really helpful going into the last year.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Immersing yourself in all things soccer ahead of this summer's World Cup, I'm Alex Abnos, senior sports editor from The Guardian. And whether you're a soccer beginner or you know the game inside and out, we've got you covered. Read, watch, and listen as our journalists connect the dots between the games, the cultures, and this political moment. We'll have daily newsletters throughout the tournament, reporters on the ground with all the big teams, and the legendary Football Weekly podcast. The Guardian, bringing you the whole picture on soccer. Search Guardian Soccer for more.
Tara, from what I understand, she also worked on building connectivity within the team. So she wasn't just coaching you, but she was also working with the team. Can you tell us a little bit about how she went about unlocking better connectivity?
Most of what she did, she actually worked with me. But we did some exercises to have people, like a triad where 3 people would talk to each other, and each of the 2 people would listen to the one person and then repeat kind of to the group. This is what we learned about Paul. He's a CEO in Australia, and it's his family. He has 2 daughters. Maybe you have a dog. I mean, just like learning and getting to know people and understanding who in your life is important to you, what things are important to you. So getting to know people beyond the fact that they can dribble and shoot or play defense, but in fact that who they are as a person. So I think, we did exercises like that.
How do you think that knowledge helps?
I think that sometimes, it would just give you a little bit of a key to maybe unlocking sometimes how someone's feeling, or the fact that, if you opened up to myself and another person that we were with, we could come back and say, well, Paul, remember, who's really important to you? What would they think about this behavior? Like, let's say, maybe it's, maybe you had a great coach sometime, and we say, well, what would this coach think about you being late to practice, or you not having a good attitude, and it gives you just a little, just a little insight into what makes them tick and how to communicate with them.
I've also heard you speak, Tara, about this idea of being a great teammate. Right. And I was intrigued actually, because you also talked about you termed him the happiness professor at Stanford, Professor Fred Luskin. I wasn't familiar with any of his work, but could you tell us about this happiness professor and perhaps the impact that he had?
Well, I think that one thing that as a coach for me, as long as I've done this, I don't feel like I have all the answers. And so I'm always looking for ideas, whether it's books for our team to read or people for them to meet that will help them, kind of take them to the next level, be someone that helps them achieve their goals and kind of realize their potential while they're on our team. And so, as you said, the leadership coach was someone, and also Fred, I met about 8 years ago. He spoke to the athletic department, and I just thought he was fantastic. So I went up to him afterwards and I said, would you be interested in working with our team? And So he would come once a week for 10 minutes. And that's hard with Fred because he's chat, he can talk. But for 10 minutes, he would just talk to our team. And, I have pages and pages of notes from the exercises that he would do. Some of it was deep breathing, some of it was meditation, some of it was, just really, it was very calming. And our team, I think at first some people thought, oh, this is kind of silly, but our team really loved it. And when we were at the Final Four, playing in a pressure situation, I said, well, what will help you? And they said, let's get Fred on Zoom. So, we got Fred on Zoom, and, he was able to, I think, help people relax and talk to them about, being able to go up on that high wire. He was just, another layer of net. And he also would meet with people individually. And he was great for me. I really enjoy, he's still just a great friend.
Talked in there about, not having all the answers and making use of the resources around you. Was it always that way, or was it something that evolved as your tenure as a coach went?
No, I think I've always been really open to listening to other people, learning from the other people. I've always gone to other people's practices and watched their practices. We had our swim coach came and talked to our team before we won our national championship. I've had Jeremy come and speak to our team, and I've spoken with his team. I've spoken to the football team, our men's basketball team. I think at Stanford there's a lot of collaboration, and I like that. And it's just I don't think you can have too many people helping in a good way, but I've always learned a lot from other people, and I like that.
I think that collaboration spills over into the environment around Stanford. I know Jeremy talked a lot about going into Silicon Valley and talking to a lot of the companies there. Is that also something that you've done over the years? Yes.
Yeah.
Tara, there's this word that comes up a lot when what I basically do when I'm preparing for an interview is I download all the interesting articles into a big Word file, and then I sort of start reading through it. The word understated came up time and time again. It was one of the most interesting words and one of the most common words. And just interviewing you today, I can see that understated presence is really something that comes to the fore when people get to meet you. In fact, it was Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warrior coach, had said, I've always loved her sort of understated presence. But it made me wonder if this kind of approach to leadership, this understated approach, not always needing to be heard and at the forefront of everything, is somehow linked to your longevity as a leader. And I'm wondering what others can learn from it.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you are who you are, right? And I think I've always trusted myself to be authentic, and I learn from other people. I'm open to a lot of different ideas, but I feel like I have my own North Star in terms of wanting to be authentic, have integrity, be, honest. And I don't really need a lot of attention. I don't need to be the center of attention. I don't have to go to the party and say, look at me, look at me. I just, I enjoy people. I like meeting people. I love the game of basketball. I love to be active and have fun. But I think I've led a magical life. I've traveled all over the world. I've been to Sydney, loved it. It's beautiful. Met presidents, gone to incredible events, and, been around the very best of athletes, basketball players, and Olympians and everything. And I don't feel like I have anything to prove to anyone, so I'm happy. So I don't need to, I don't have to get a lot of reinforcement from a lot of other people.
I interviewed quite a successful Australian rules football coach a few weeks back, and he notoriously doesn't do any media. And I just managed to get a really nice introduction to him from someone. And I asked him why, and he said, look, as a coach, he's always conscious of people not hearing his voice too much less the impact wears out. And it really made me wonder if that's not something that we lose sight of sometimes in leadership. We're always so busy talking that we lose sight of the impact that the volume of that speech can have on people.
I think that's probably a good statement. I think there is something to be said of that, and that so that when he does speak, they haven't tuned him out.
As my kids do to me when I keep telling them to clean up the house. Now, Tara, I don't know if this research is correct, so I'm going to put it out there and you can tell me whether I've got it right or not. 48 years of coaching, about 3 technical fouls. I've seen it referenced twice. Now, I was like, that doesn't seem right. Only 3, because the average college coach in America is getting 1 to 2 per season. So you are well underneath. Now, this suggests to me a couple of things. One is that your courtside demeanour is more calm than most, or 2, that you're just good at bottling things up and not letting it display on the courtside. But I'm wondering, all jokes aside, whether there is anything that you do to try and maintain your emotional state. You talked about meditation earlier, but it must have been something that's been with you for the length of your career.
Well, those 3 technical fouls I only deserve 2 of them because one of them was called when I was in Alaska coaching a team, and they called over and back, and we did not have the over and back rule at the time. The official maybe did high school basketball or whatever, and I'm like, I tried to explain to them, we don't even have that rule. So 2 of them were probably legitimate, and there might have been times where I should have gotten another one, but I didn't. I really feel like you should do your coaching in practice, and to act like a maniac on the sideline getting technical fouls. I would be afraid. I would not want to lose a game or lose a championship because I couldn't control my emotions. So I think for that, I can sit there and I might be swearing under my breath, or I could be saying some crazy things, but I don't. I also feel like the officials are trying to do the best they can. So for me to cause a distraction just takes their focus away from the game, and they need all their attention on the game.
And yet, Bobby Knight was an influence on you who was probably at the other end of the spectrum.
Well, I don't know. Did he get a lot of technical fouls? I don't know. He probably got them when he wanted them. He did one crazy thing, throwing the chair out there, but that was really not how he coached. When I watched his practices, he was a teacher, and so maybe there were times where he would get a technical foul in a game, but I didn't see that, and I didn't see that as his demeanor in practice.
Immersing yourself in all things soccer ahead of this summer's World Cup, I'm Alex Abnos, senior sports editor from The Guardian. And whether you're a soccer beginner or you know the game inside and out, we've got you covered. Read, watch, and listen as our journalists connect the dots between the games, the cultures, and this political moment. We'll have daily newsletters throughout the tournament, reporters on the ground with all the big teams, and the legendary Football Weekly podcast. The Guardian, bringing you the whole picture on soccer. Search Guardian Soccer for more.
If your eyes are the windows to your soul and your glasses are the windows to your eyes, then it's pretty important to find your perfect frames. That's why at Warby Parker, we've made shopping for eyewear as easy and fun as can be. Peruse endless styles in our stores or use our app to virtually try on frames and get personalized recommendations. To find your next favorite pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to locate your nearest Warby Parker store, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Tara, you describe your coaching philosophy as hard work. That seems to be the word that you come back to time and time again. But you also say that my intensity and passion, sometimes I was probably harder on players than they could take at the time. Now, if I could take you back and introduce you to that coach who was using their intensity to be hard on players, knowing what you know now, what would you say to her?
Well, I'd probably just say, relax, it's all going to work out. And, I think also the times are different now. What how you could coach 30 years ago is different than what you could do now. But I would say also that I did change and evolved. I think I became a better coach, as I was in it longer and understood it more and kept working at it. But, you can't you are who you are and you can't change yourself. I can't go back, but I think I did learn from some situations. But I wasn't ever a crazy maniac coach. I really focused on being a positive, encouraging teacher, and I started with that, and I've stuck with that. There might be some players that, again, the world has changed, and some of them maybe I didn't connect as well as you want to with some of them. But I think for the most part, I've had just great players and had great opportunities to coach them and great relationships with them after they've graduated.
You talk about being a positive teacher, and at the start of this interview, you said that you're a coach's coach. Could you tell us what your work with those coaches entails?
Well, this is a really difficult time in the American college athletic landscape where NIL, if people are familiar with name, image, and likeness, as a student athlete, you can be paid by maybe a shoe company or a cosmetic company or whatever, to represent their products. So players have their own individual brands. They have agents. Sometimes they're distracted by doing advertisements or photo shoots or TikTok videos instead of being in the gym or being in the library. And then because you might have your own brand and my brand competes with you, then we're on the same team, and there's not always the teamwork and the camaraderie and the closeness that great teams have. So these are different challenges right now in the college athletic landscape, along with the portal, which is the ability to transfer without sitting out a year. So you can leave one college and go to a different college. In the old days, you had to sit out a year. So it did get people's attention. There was more maybe conscientious. I'm going to stick this out. I'm going to be more determined. I'm going to work on my communication with my teammates or my coaches. So that changes things. And so, when you add in the money, the ability to change quickly, it makes it challenging for coaches and for young people right now.
Tara, you've been very generous with your time. I'd like to maybe, if I could, just ask one final question. And it's, I found a quote from a lady called Judy Gross, or Gross, I think you might pronounce it. I'm not sure. Yeah. But she was on she was on the team where you had your first win as a coach back in 1979 when you were leading the University of Idaho. And she was reflecting on that day and she said, quote, "And we kind of felt that sense where you're hard on them, but you also value them as individuals." We really felt that from her. Now, for someone to recall that 45 years on is really quite amazing. But in your words, Tara, what do you hope is the legacy that you've left?
Well, you want people to really enjoy the experience of playing on your team. And I think that I would always challenge myself to be a coach that I would like to play for. Now, mind you, I didn't really get to play on very many teams, but you did reference B. Gorton one time, and I played for B. Gorton at Indiana, and she was a great coach, and she was someone that cared about her team. She cared about the players. She was someone that was strict, and she didn't raise her voice. She never swore. But you knew you better, do the right thing. And she was very direct. And so I learned from B. I learned from Coach Knight. I took a class from Fred Taylor, and all that, all the X's and O's, all the experience. You just come back to the very first coaching job I had was with my sister's team, and that to remember that everyone on your team is someone's sister. And to, in some respects, then I just had to be a good big sister. And in some ways, when I was a head coach, I was 25 years old, and the players sometimes are 22. So it was still being, having a sisterhood, being a good big sister. I can't say that I'm perfect. There are definitely a lot of situations that I would go back and say, well, I would rethink that and, maybe not be as, rash in terms of making a decision. But, knowing what I know now, I would, say, oh, you could have done better. But I did the best I could during the time. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work with the young people I worked with. And they'll come back and say to me, do you remember when you said this to me? I'm like, no, I don't. But, that they remembered it, and that's important.
Tara, it's been great interviewing you today. You've been on my wish list for almost since the day I started the podcast. One of the most winningest coaches, or for a while there, the winningest coach in college history. And I thank you very much for your time today.
All right, Paul, my pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Paul here, and you have been listening to the great coach, Tara VanDerveer. I hope you got a lot out of Tara's long and illustrious journey and found a few ideas that you can bring back to your own team for discussion. When I listened back through the edit, some of the things that caught my attention were the way she uses meditation and deep breathing to help the team prepare before games, how she used a leadership coach to help develop her communication skills and energy, and also to build connection throughout the team, and how coaching requires you to be the safety net for people you ask to go up on the higher wire. And this is the role that you must fill no matter what as a coach and a leader. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we do. And just before we go, if you have any feedback, then please let us know. Just like high-performing teams, who, after listening to our interview with Guy Malloy, said, "This was a great episode, some gold nuggets in there. 2 points I loved most from Coach Malloy. Number one, his awareness that culture underpins the technical and tactical elements of the team. And number two, an environment of high anxiety is not a sweet spot for any performance team." Thanks, high-performing teams. The interaction with the people around the world who listen gives us great energy. And so if you have any feedback or comments, please let us know. And of course, if they're positive ones, then let a friend or two know as well. All the details on how to connect with us are on the show notes or on our website, thegreatcoachespodcast.com.
Immersing yourself in all things soccer ahead of this summer's World Cup? I'm Alex Abnos, Senior Sports Editor from The Guardian. Whether you're a soccer beginner or you know the game inside and out, we've got you covered. From one of the fastest growing soccer newsrooms, The Guardian brings you in-depth World Cup coverage that gets into the winners and losers on and off the pitch. Read, watch, and listen as our journalists connect the dots between the games, the cultures, and this political moment. We'll have daily newsletters throughout the tournament, a global perspective, and a squad of Americans, including me, on the ground with the U.S. national team. Plus, if you want to test your soccer knowledge, try On the Ball. It's a game in the Guardian app, and it's really, really fun. And if you're into stuff like this...
Well, I think the problem is if you give footballers an inch, they will take a mile.
Is it too much when it's this close?
It's a bit much. It's a bit too real. Maybe you could just talk with a slight delay.
Be sure to listen to our Football Weekly podcast for on-the-move expert analysis. The Guardian, bringing you the whole picture on soccer. Search Guardian Soccer for more.
That's the sound of a tree in Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains, releasing volatile organic compounds, which is just a fancy way of saying it's creating fog. And that makes the Smokies smoky. This is one of many sounds in Tennessee with a story to tell. To hear them in person, plan your trip at tnvacation.com. Tennessee sounds perfect.